more of what I'm dubbing broken arm adventures, looking for pigs, maybe the occasional axis deer, filming with my phone because I can't really operate a camera. Just starting to get a grip back, shooting with the mouth tab on the bow. So I just bite that piece there and then draw back with my teeth and let it rip. Been doing pretty good so far.
Related to you not being able to clap, I wanted to talk about your wrist, and specifically one thing that I think is awesome because it's a big ethos and communication point at Mountain Tough that we try to get across all the time. And one reason we try to get this point across all the time is because we've seen it change the trajectory of a lot of folks' lives. And what I'm talking about is you have this mentality, and you're using this mentality right now to adapt and overcome. And adaptation is big. And so what we see in the gym all the time is someone will go in for like a ACL repair, and then they'll use that ACL repair as a new limiting factor to maybe take a year off, 2 years off, and then that will start snowballing on itself, and they'll usually go through a really hard time and have a really hard time at a minimum getting back in shape because they use that one knee on an ACL repair to take 2 years off instead of training the rest of their body that was in fine shape and not really finding a way to adapt and overcome. And so not going down that road is something we recommend all the time. Like, just if your arm doesn't work, use the rest of your body that works and find a way to make it happen. And a big part of that is because we know that the folks that do that are going to have a better life experience, because adapting allows you to get outside and still do the stuff you enjoy. It also teaches you a lot, and it also keeps that mental toughness muscle going, because one thing we found for sure is mental toughness is a muscle almost just like all of our other muscles, and if you're not using it, it does start to go away. And so I just wanted to go through your story on your wrist and your surgeries, and the coolest part to me is just seeing you not let that slow you down and switching some of the stuff you're doing with archery, and just see around your mindset. Was that just instant? Was that something you had to think about?
No, I mean, for me, yeah. So essentially what happened, I tore the tendons that do a lot of the controlling of the wrist, the hand movement. And, it was a fairly extensive surgery to be able to get it back, including taking tendons from my forearm and then redoing the surgery to get it to work right. The first surgery did not work. And so now I'm in the second surgery. So I'm going on quite a while of not being able to use my dominant hand, which for everything I do, it's like, it sucks in some ways. But I didn't even think about it. I just thought, okay, I love bow hunting. How am I going to continue to bow hunt? Just because I can't use my right arm to draw the bow back. Okay, well, I figured out I'm going to shoot with my mouth. I'll use a mouth tab. And if there's another way later on that I can use, I'll switch to that. But, it didn't even cross my mind of like being like, oh, I'm going to sit this archery season out. It was like, okay, cool. I think a couple days after I had the surgery, I was like, all right, I better figure out. Should have done it pre-surgery, but like, I'm going to figure out how to shoot with my mouth. You just kind of start to adapt the certain things, like, okay, I can't do this way, but I can do it this way. Okay, I can't go on those long, fast runs anymore when I was in the sling and doing the other things, but I could do other types of workouts, work on my legs, work on my left, work on whatever, work on my neck muscle for holding the bow back, work on a bunch of different things, and adapt. And I found I found that it's actually, in some ways, it's like you're kind of like learning something over again, but in some ways it's also that fun aspect of like trying a new challenge. And I just kind of saw it as more of like a new challenge in some ways. Whereas like, instead of it being like, oh, this sucks, I got to do it this way. It's like, oh, cool. I get to hunt some way that I've never hunted before.
Yeah.
I was like, there's a lot of times I pick up I like to hunt every different way. I'll hunt with a rifle. I hunt with a bow. I hunt with a traditional bow. I hunt with a compound bow. I hunt with a recurve. Like, I just love to be out hunting. So I'm finding ways to kind of continue to do what I love and just changing the way that I do it a little bit. And, I think it just becomes a part of your life when it's like, hey, it's just like anything though. I mean, when I'm out there hunting and on a backcountry hunt, you encounter things that you weren't expecting. And the people that go home are the ones that like just can't adapt to that situation. But you get so used to adapting to that situation that whatever comes up, you make good on it, and in some ways you have a fun time doing it as well.
Do you think you've had this mentality most of your life?
Oh yeah, I've definitely had the mentality most of my life. It's like it's something, I've never like seen a problem as like something that stops you. A problem is just like, yeah, something that you figure out a way around. Mm-hmm. And it's just like the way that I've kind of always lived. And I think it just kind of lends itself to the lifestyle that I have as well. It's like, traveling, going to a lot of places, being in a lot of situations that most of the time situations aren't ideal. Everyone talks about Murphy, and it's like Murphy's going to show up. It's like me and Murphy are buds at this point. Like, I don't know any other way to explain it, but like, yeah, I mean, I figure out ways to try to avoid meeting up with him, but when I do, like, I just figure it out, and you don't even think twice about it. I think for me at least, it's more just a way that you kind of live every day is like, yeah, things happen and you just figure out a way to work around it.
It's pretty sweet because it's like two huge mental toughness philosophies. One is optimism. So just being optimistic through life's hits is pretty cool, that like you already have that mentality baked in. And then another one that is talked about a lot is like life's going to throw a lot of hits at you, and just expecting that and being open to that and knowing that they're coming changes the whole game. Instead of acting like a hit is this big deal, if you change that perspective to like, hits are coming, I know there's probably the next one's coming soon, but I'm going to adapt and overcome and just work my way through that. It's pretty awesome that like you've had that mentality the whole time.
Yeah, I think one thing is like, I think at this point, you almost like when you get used to living like that, you almost get bored when things are just one way. You're like, I don't know, maybe I should just throw a wrench in here and see what happens, because when you get used to it, it's just the way that you live. It's like the way that you think about things, and it doesn't even. I mean, for me personally, it doesn't really faze me that much. I kind of forget that. I was like, okay, I can't use this hand for certain things, but I can do it a different way. Mm-hmm. And for me, fortunately, I know it's a temporary situation. There's a lot of people that, that's one other thing that I think about. Is like, there's a lot of people that have it as a permanent situation, and they do an incredible job. A friend of mine, Nolan Young, he's got cerebral palsy, and he shoots his bow with his mouth. And I was like, that was really inspirational to me to see how somebody else does it and like has to do it that way. Mm-hmm. And he actually kind of helped get me set up with the mouth tab and everything. But just like, looking at it like, look, it's something that's doable. It's easily doable. Mm-hmm. Other people can do it. And even if nobody had done it, if you can figure out a way to do something, like everything's doable if you put enough time and energy and effort into it.
Yeah. And you had instant ramifications of how it changed your life. 'Cause if you would have just moped about it and got down about it and taken some time off, the last few months of your life would have been completely different. But you were already out hunting, you were already in Lanai, like you had a pretty awesome year, an enjoyable year where you learned a lot regardless of your circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the things is like you can think about, it's like you can think about something and say, oh, what am I going to do? Or you can just say, well, I'm just going to do what I do. Like there's, oh no, what do I do now? Or just go do what you're doing. Anyway, you just figure out a way to do it. And that's kind of just always been my philosophy. And because of it, like, I feel like I haven't really skipped a beat. Mm-hmm. It's just doing what I would have done, whether it's there or not, just doing it a different way.
Yeah, and it has ripple down effects too, because like who knows who you may have encouraged like through this process. So it's like it's bigger than you, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody's like, oh, this happened or that happened. And I hear it all the time too. I was like, oh man, I've got a shoulder surgery. I'm going to miss out. Or I drew a good tag, but I can't do it because of this. And it's like, anytime that those situations happen, I'm like, I would figure out a way to do it, because you're still out there, you're doing it, you're going to get that enjoyment out of it, and you're going to have to, you're just going to make it happen if you choose to make it happen.
Yeah, and something that we talk about a lot is if you're not feeling, seeing, or experiencing adversity, you're probably not pushing hard enough. And so I always view adversity as like a really good sign that we're on the right track and that we're pushing the boundaries, pushing the limits. And if I get through a season in life where there's no adversity, it's usually a red flag for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the other thing is like, you know, once you push through that adversity, there's a lot of cool things that come out of it, you know, and you just don't know what kind of experience you're going to have. I think, this recently, between the two surgeries, my wrist was essentially completely dislocated. And I had a trip that I'd already planned over a year ago to go hunt mouflon sheep with my bow. And that's a fairly challenging hunt as it is. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And because of it, I shot the best ram I've ever shot. You know, it's like you don't know what you're going to encounter. Like you don't know what kind of experience you would be missing out on if you don't just take that plunge and say, yeah, I'm going to take the challenge and just do it and look at it as like it's just a part of life.
That's awesome. All right, can you clap for us to close?